This feels a little bit like COVID. Some of the flights I've got booked in May might not take off.
The price of jet fuel has doubled since the war in Iran began, and supplies are being squeezed. Ryanair warns there's a growing risk airlines won't be able to run their full summer schedules.
May, June, July, August, into the peak family holiday period, I think it's inevitable that fares will rise.
Today, one British airline cut one of its domestic routes. How much more disruption lies ahead? The first British airline cancellations of the Third Gulf War. Skybus has ditched one of its domestic routes because the price of jet fuel has doubled and bookings have slumped. At Manchester and airports everywhere today, the Easter getaway went smoothly, but concerns about price and the availability of jet fuel persist.
This feels a little bit like COVID, in which case it's creeping up on us from abroad. But the idea that some of the flights I've got booked in May might not take off because the fuel for them is stuck in the Gulf, I simply didn't have on my bingo card.
The risk is real, as the boss of Ryanair acknowledges.
The Straits of Hormuz have been blocked now for 30 days. If they remain closed for 60, 90 days, we're all facing an unknown scenario, and we are certainly looking at maybe having to cancel 5%, 10% of flights through maybe May, June and July.
Almost 19 million tonnes of jet fuel was shipped out of the Strait of Hormuz last year. That's more than a fifth of total global exports of 90 million tonnes. So supply has been choked and the market is tightening further. China, the world's second largest producer, is now restricting exports. And South Korea, another key producer, has cut output as it struggles to source crude oil to refine. Now, more tankers are now bringing jet fuel from the United States to Europe. The Puffin Pacific is one of them. It passed through the English Channel today and is due to arrive late tonight on the coast of Kent. But it is not enough to offset the lost supply.
Even if the war ends tomorrow, a supply crunch is still looming. Refineries in the Middle East Gulf have been damaged by the war, especially in Kuwait. And as a result, European airports remain exposed.
Airlines say there's no current disruption to the supply of jet fuel. The advice from Ryanair is book as quickly as you can to avoid a rise in fares. But if the war persists, airlines are unlikely to be able to operate their full summer schedule. Joel Hills, ITV News.
If this war continues into May or June, and the Straits of Hormuz have been blocked now for 30 days, if they remain closed for 60, 90 days, we're all facing an unknown scenario, and we are certainly looking at maybe having to cancel 5%, 10% of flights through maybe May, June and July. So I think the message from the airline industry is the sooner this war is over, the better, and the sooner we get oil supplies moving again, the better.
And if an airline is having to make difficult decisions, which routes is it likely to cancel first?
I mean, I think airlines won't have that flexibility to choose routes, Joel. We have aircraft that are based at 95 airports across Europe. And we'll have to cancel routes at whichever airport or where the fuel companies advise us we're short of Jet A1 at, say, Malaga Airport, or we're short of Jet A1 at Athens Airport. It'll be those kind of decisions. And we'll get very little notice. We'll be told, I think, within 5-7 days notice. So we will then look around and we will be trying to ground one or two aircraft and minimise the inconvenience for customers. But it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging.
What would your advice be to someone who hasn't booked for summer but would love to fly away? On the one hand, they might think book now, but on the other hand, they're thinking this is a gamble.
I don't think that much of a gamble. I would strongly advise, whether you're flying Ryanair or any other, book quickly. There's no doubt that bookings are for lots of people who would have, if in the summer had planned to go to the Gulf or fly with the Gulf carriers longer haul, are all now rebooking to go to the Portugal, France, Italy, Greece, European spots. Accommodation prices are rising, airfares are rising into peak summer. I would book your summer holidays now as quickly as you can. Yes, there's a risk, but I don't know.
That, but booking now is a complete gamble, isn't it? There's a good chance your flights will get cancelled.
Look, life is a gamble, Joel. I mean, I think we're looking at maybe the risk to 5 or 10% of cancellations in June or July, but 90% of the flights will still operate. So I think you're really not taking much of a gamble. I would be much more concerned if you delay your booking, that actually you and your family will be paying much higher prices if you get to May, June or July.
Now, if someone does book, and if in May, June, July they find that their flight has been cancelled, who should they blame? Should they blame the airline? Should they blame Iran? Or should they blame Trump?
I mean, look, firstly, they should clearly blame Trump. This has been a poorly judged attack on Iran. There doesn't seem to be any exit plan at all. But, we are where we are. Blaming Trump is not going to get us anywhere. Look, if you are in the unfortunate position that, there are supply shortages in June or July, that your flight has been cancelled, as long as you're flying within Europe, the airlines have an obligation to get you back or reroute you. Now, you won't get compensation because it's clearly beyond the airline's control. But we will, and in Ryanair, we have lots of flights on a daily basis. We will reaccommodate you, get you back, get you out, whatever it's going to be. You might be stuck for a day or two, but if you're staying within Europe, you should be reasonably confident, A, that your original flight will operate, and B, if there is a disruption, bear in mind, there'll be far more disruptions this summer from French air traffic controllers not showing up to work.